Taylor, I'm beyond excited to have this conversation with you. I've been following you for so long and just steeping myself in all of your content, and I just think you're the best. So I guess I should throw that out up front. And I wanted to dive in right away with a super deep question. You call yourself a wealth activator, and I feel like that is obviously an inspired title, and it feels like it was like this mantle that would have like
Mhm.
fallen upon you. And I feel like I've had kind of similar experiences. So I'd love to know like what led up to that and how it felt to receive that and how you had the courage to really own it because that is a powerful, powerful title.
Well, thank you, first of all. I'm so excited to chat with you, and this is such a fun question. I This title of being a wealth activator, it is something I've only really taken on in the last year. I think it's been less than a year that I've owned that, and I've been in my business and doing this work that I do for over almost 7 years now. And I was constantly changing my title, constantly changing who I was, and
Yeah.
every time I'd find a title, it felt like this feels close enough. And Wealth Activator was something that kind of channeled through me. It dropped into my consciousness one day, and those words, and I was like, oh, Wealth Activator. And it's the only title I think I've found that feels like it actually encapsulates what I do and what my gifts are and how I help people and how I change the world. And for me, it it means that through my different skills, my different techniques, my different modalities, the different work that I do, every video I create, my Oracle deck, my teachings, my work with my clients, everything I do activates wealth in people. And I've seen as I've played with this gift and this title more and more, I've realized it's not just energy, though it is, where I know when I speak to someone, all of a sudden ideas start unlocking and motivation bubbles up and creativity and inspiration and ideas, and they feel more abundant, and then they attract more abundance from more of a manifestation standpoint. But also my ability to see in people their kind of greatest attributes and qualities and skills that can be leveraged to make more money, and I get to speak to that and help them just understand the depths of that. It's actually that activating of their understanding of their own gifts and their own power that I think is really at the core of what I do. And I teach so much, and I activate in so many different ways. And I activate people into trusting their inner guidance in order to follow it to more abundance. And I activate people in embodying the energy of the wealth they desire and that next level version of them who has the wealth they desire. But I found that the most exciting piece for me is often sitting down with someone and just talking to them for a little bit, or looking at their human design chart, or just pulling some cards and having a conversation. And as they speak, I can so easily tune into like several gifts that they have just from being around them and in their energy. And I get to reflect that back to them. And it's in that reflecting that back to them and showing that to them in a different way that's really where I think I most powerfully activate wealth in people, because I help people see their greatest gifts you carry your whole life, so you don't realize how powerful they are.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
I activate that seeing and that understanding in people because I can see it. And then I frame it back to them. And I go, do you understand you're so good at this? And do you see
Yeah.
how if you brought that into your work or into this business or into this part of your strategy or into your interactions with your coworkers, do you see how that could lead to more money or how that could be leveraged? And it's like that's where people they come to tears. They have like these mind-blowing moments. And there's so much more than that than what I do, but I feel like that's, I think, one of the most beautiful parts of what I do as a wealth activator. And for me, this last year has been so much about playing with that and playing with helping people activate these different parts of themselves, but especially their unique gifts and how we can then leverage that and translate it into more wealth. And there's so much that goes into the title, but for me, it doesn't even feel like a mantle. Like it doesn't feel like this.
Okay.
It's the most fulfilling thing. It's like if I can, whenever I can just get on a call with somebody or just talk to somebody and just even reflect one gift back to them and just I don't want to say the validation, but the seeing themselves and valuing themselves on a new level that I get to see before my eyes, and then knowing they're going to go, that's going to change their lives. They're going to go do something with that. They're going to apply that in new ways with new confidence in on higher levels. Like that is the greatest gift for me. And so I love being a wealth activator when I look at it through that angle.
That's so powerful. And I love, love, love. I talk a lot about superpowers and finding your superpower.
Mhm.
And I think so often we talk about we're multi-passionate and we have these different areas that we thrive in, but they're kind of shallow. They're kind of surface level because we
Mhm.
look at it through, I could make money in sales or I could make money teaching, but really there's like deeper roots. And that's kind of what this speaks to is like at first you were kind of scattered of like, I'm good in here and here. And a lot of people struggle with that. And then this brings it all home to like the
Mhm.
core of like, it speaks to what you're really good at, but it's because of how you can reflect back to other
Yeah.
people. And I love how we can see this in ourselves as we look deeper to our own gifts.
Mhm.
It's not just about the surface level thing that might make you money, it's about how you are acting in the world towards other people. So, what were some of the things that led you up to this? What was some of your journey getting up to this?
For me, and the reason that I think that this gift comes through so strongly in terms of reflecting these gifts back to people and then helping them connect the dots between those gifts and money and wealth and manifestation is because my family, me personally, struggled with money like my whole life. And we never went without when I was a kid, but there were bankruptcies. There was always stress around money. There was always, are we going to have enough? Like, and we always had just
Yeah.
enough or could manage to just keep, the roof over our head to, keep food on the table. This is like, so I never went without, but there was always this looming fear of scarcity, of not having enough. And it controlled so much of my parents' lives, so much of my life, so many of the decisions that were made, especially for them and seeing them put their happiness aside because of
Yep.
money and or the fear of lack of money. And that stress, I just think I absorbed it and that
Right. We
worry,
like inherit
anxiety.
it. We
Yeah.
take it into our system because we're like, this is how the world operates. So it's how I should operate. And we have to unlearn that as we become adults.
Yes. And I did what, I was told was the prescribed path for not having to worry about money later in life and for having wealth and not feeling scarce, which was go to school, get good grades, get a good job, and then you'll be fine. And I did that. And I did it like 10 out of 10. I was straight A
Yeah.
student. I went to school, got a graduate with honors, even went and started an Ivy League school for graduate school before I realized I wasn't learning anything because I'd already overstudied everything at undergrad. Like I I did everything. I went and I left and I got a job in a field that I kind of liked, but was, I was like, what I really want to do is be a fiction writer. And then I was like, well, that's not going to make money. So I had to put that aside, right? Like there's so much of forsaking what I really wanted to do because I thought this is the way you have to do it to make
Right.
money.
When we put
And
money on that pedestal and
Mhm.
we're like, well, if money's the dream instead of what actually is the thing that lights my heart on fire,
Mhm.
it leads to sadness in our soul.
Yeah. Yeah. And for me, it was like I think I was, 23, 24, maybe a little younger. And I had left school. I was living at home with my parents because even though I got a job, it could not pay the bills and the student loan debt I'd taken on to go to school because I was told do this and then you'll
Right.
be fine because you'll get a good job and you'll make the
Mm.
money and pay it off. And I had like over $100,000 of student loan debt and I was like, I can't live anywhere. And if like what am I supposed to do? I was living at home with my parents, working a full-time job, barely able to make ends meet, working that full-time job, even though I kept getting promotions, I was severely underpaid. Like it was just like
Yep.
there was there were so many things that I just felt so betrayed by the story I had been told, by what I was told, this is what you have to do to make money. And I think because I watched my parents live their life that way, and then I saw myself starting to live that life, but it still wasn't working for me. I was like, no, I did everything quote unquote right. I did it right, and it's not working for me financially. That I'm going to look for a different way. And so I started this is where I got more into manifestation, more into mindset work. I started seeing things shift with that. I started doubling my salary overnight by doing a lateral move to another job and getting a way better paycheck at the same, kind of level position. And I just saw these little things start, but it wasn't until I started my business 7 years ago that I realized that, again, the way that everyone else was telling me to grow my business and start it, I was like, that's not going to work for me. I tried a little bits of it. It wasn't working. It wasn't. And I felt like I was repeating that cycle of, okay, I'm now in a different microcosm, but it's the same story of follow this formula and then you'll have money. And it wasn't working. And I think because I've been so aware of that in my own like general life path with money and with my family that I was like, okay, we're not going to hold on to this for like the next 10 years and try to make it work. I was like, I'm going to find my own way to do it. And around that time I found human design, and that was kind of the gateway to it. But what I started finding was, where are my greatest gifts? The things that come easily to me, the things that I'm exceptionally good at, the things that just feel so fun and so life-giving to me, and how can I weave those into my business, and how can I use those to then create strategies from, or to create offers from, or just to serve my clients from, and how can I weave that into everything I do. And that was when my business started to take off, and that was when I went from like 2K months to 20K months overnight. That was when I started making six figures, multiple six figures in my business. And it was just this huge jump, and none of it made logical sense by what anyone was telling me I should
Yeah.
do. It all came down to trusting my inner guidance, to embodying the version of me I want to be, and using my gifts along the way. And those are like the three pillars I teach. And I think all of those things, your inner guidance, your unique gifts that are come so easily to you that you forget you even have them, and your ability to embody with your mindset and your energy the version of you who has what you desire and who's fully expressed, living out their full gifts. Those are our greatest gifts. And so those are the things that I activate in people. And I think it was for me not even realizing that was my formula for success. But I think in doing all that and living it out and seeing how that actually worked for me, and then starting to share it with some private clients and starting to play with that with like, hey, what if we work on trusting this part of you, and bringing this out and embodying it, and ooh, these are gifts I see in you specifically, and let's bring those out. And as I did that, my clients started making 10K months. I started working with people who make more than I do even now and helping them reach new levels of success. And I was like, wow, this is transferable to anybody. And it really is, like you said, it's I found through deconditioning everything I was told that told me to put aside or take for granted or just sweep under the rug the things that I was good at or that I enjoyed and my gifts. By deconditioning that and bringing those things forward, that was when the money just started becoming easily. That was when the
Mhm.
growth in my business became easy. That was when everything just started to expand. And it was like I was making my own strategies, my own, logical things, but also just attracting miracles too. Like just amazing things. So that was kind of, I think the story was like I had to activate these things in myself first. And I think it came from, I don't want to say rock bottom, but from a place of like financially rock bottom of like, this isn't working. I've done everything I was supposed to do and it's not working. There has to be something else. And I looked within instead of looking outside of myself. And so I think that's where this ability to do that for others has really either come from or strengthened, right?
Oh, this is incredible. And I have like 100 questions that I want to dive into with this, but I'm going to start with the, I want to ask about the courage to leave your job specifically, but the courage to step away from what everyone else told you was the right path, which is something we all face. We all face this onslaught of people, telling us, wait a minute, you have to do it this way. This is the path to happiness, even though none of them are happy. Even
Yeah.
though none of them are living this dream that they are trying to tell us here's the path to the dream, but they aren't, they've walked that path and they're not seeing it. We have to, the key then is you're saying, and as is true, is to step off of that path and to lead with that aligned soul centered guidance, right? But it takes so much courage to leave that and to go, actually, here's what I just feel it. I just know it. It doesn't make any logical sense. So I'd love to start with like the courage to leave your job and to start down that path of no, here's what I just know to be right.
So it was for me. very circumstantial because I was not happy at my day job. I had right when I started my business, I had a day job that I enjoyed. It was fine. It was not fulfilling. It
Yeah.
wasn't really to me meaningful work, but it was a decent paycheck. And I liked my coworkers. It was a nice location. Like things were fine, but I didn't love it and I wasn't fulfilled. And I was in my mid 20s and I was like, is this the rest of my life? Like this is it. And
Yeah.
I still had so much debt at that time because even though I was making a decent paycheck, remember I had that 100K in student loan that I left school with. So it's
Yeah.
like I was making, I think like 45K at that job annually. Like, and there was room to, grow a little bit. And so maybe one day I'd be making like 70K or something. So it was a comfortable enough income. But with that 100K of debt behind, I was like, I'm never going to be out from under this. Like, so there was part of it was like the financial of like, I am never going to be free. Like, this is going to take decades to pay out. Like, it was just, add in cost of living and, paying rent or a
Yeah.
mortgage or a car payment. And it was just like, I don't have any extra money. Like, how am I ever going to buy a house? How am I ever going to, like, there was just so much of like still feeling like I'm comfortable, but I'm not happy. I'm not thriving. If I got laid off, I'd be screwed financially. Like what, like there was just still so much of that awareness of even though things were okay, they weren't really great,
Like,
like
this
they
is
were
not what I
passable.
want. This is not
Right.
what I
This
want for my
isn't,
life. Yeah. And I love this whole,
yeah.
I'm looking at my future and going, wait, is this where I want to be in 10 years?
Mhm.
Because as we talk
Yeah.
about like being the dream, it's like, where do you want to be in your life? What is the dream and how do you own it now? And so if you look at where you're sitting right now and what's going on in your life, is this what you want? And how can you start modeling your current circumstances after what you want your life to look like?
Yeah. And I was having these thoughts, and then my dad became terminally ill. And it was a huge wake up call because he had just been laid off because the company he'd been working at for basically my whole life was going under. And so he lost his job. And it was again that wake up call for me of like he did all the things right. He worked so hard. He held down this job. He was one of their longest term employees. And it just was like circumstances out of his control where he was just let go. Like he couldn't, the business was about to fold. And so he was let go. And then shortly after that, he was diagnosed with cancer that became terminal eventually. And for me, it was this huge wake up call. And it was honestly like right. And part of that whole saga was my now husband, we were dating at the time, but his dad had a heart attack and his dad had worked his whole life and was in retirement, but they lived very modestly because it was like, don't spend all the money, then we only have the retirement money. So I was just looking at these two extraordinary men in my life and these people who had provided for their families, done all the right things, and didn't get to live the life that they really had dreamed of, or like especially for my father, I could say like he had big aspirations and talents and things that he didn't do because he had to make money to provide for his children. And so this was just this wake up call for me of like, this is where I could be in 30 years, 40 years. And I don't want this to be how the rest of my life looks. And that was the moment where I started looking at, okay, I want to get out of this job. I want to not be at a 9 to 5 anymore. I want to be doing something that fulfills me, even if it only makes a little bit of money. I'd rather be in the same financial situation, but be doing something that I love and actually enjoying my life and have the freedom to travel or do things that I want. And so I started my business, and it evolved very quickly the first like 6 months because at first I was like, I'm going to be a virtual assistant, and then I was like, I think I'm going to start to learn how to coach, and I started learning how to coach, and it was life coaching, and then it was like mindset coaching, and then it's just like it evolved and evolved, but I kind of found my groove with it. But
Well, and
that was the yeah.
I'd love to pause there and say like,
Hmm.
permission to iterate. And because
Yeah.
I think so many of us, I especially like have struggled with this like, wait, if I change my mind again, what is my audience gonna think? And how can I possibly, find more clarity and then announce that again? Oops.
Yep.
Like, love to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, and I'll tell you, I've done this too in recent years in my business, and I feel like I'm continually evolving, and I don't know, not necessarily fully pivoting, but definitely refining or adjusting or
Yeah.
expanding all the time in my business. But I'm like, I get bored if I'm not kind of doing different things or stretching my skills or something in a new way, it's fun for me that way. And so for me, with the pivoting and everything, especially at the beginning, it's like there's so little to lose. Like just let yourself pivot and to tie it back to what we've been talking about here. I was figuring out what I was passionate about within the business and online space that I wanted to be in. And so it was like a kind of like, okay, I can see how I could use some of my skills here as a virtual assistant, but do I really love it? No. Oh, okay. Now I can see how if I get trained and I learn how to coach people, I could actually, I have a lot of gifts that lend themselves to that. That feels a little more fulfilling, but I don't really love just the life coaching. I want to go a little bit deeper and I want to get a little more laser focused on what I'm doing. And so it was this continual just doing, like taking action, but then adjusting and seeing how I felt once I did it, right? And seeing what gifts I could bring forward and how that felt when I did it. And so it was
Like
always a
trying
coming
on
back.
different hats.
Yeah, and it was always a coming back to myself with every step and every pivot and going, how do I enjoy? Is this fulfilling? Is this that life I want? Right? Like, could I see this becoming that life I desire? Would I be happy if I was doing this at least for the next year or two, if not 10 years, 20 years, right? And
Right.
uh, so it was a continual, like the courage to do that was really just kind of, I think a lot of it for me stemmed down to I was at a point in my life where I wasn't available to be unfulfilled after everything I'd seen with my family and with my dad and with my own finances. I was like, I have put off being fulfilled basically my entire life, even as an adolescent, as a child, because I thought I had to study so hard and stress so hard and have all these extracurriculars and all these things so I could get into a good school, so I could get good grades. And
Yeah.
I was so
It,
burned out and I was so over it. And I was like, I am unavailable to do what people tell me I have to do in the sake of this is how you succeed. Because every time I've been told that and I follow it, it doesn't work out. And so I was
well,
like,
I love this because it
yeah,
was the model in front of you of like,
yeah,
okay, put off the unfulfillment and then the fulfillment
hmm,
will come at the end. And then you watched it play out and the
yes,
fulfillment never came.
no,
And
mm-mm,
so then it was
no,
like, no, actually, you get to choose to have that right now, every single day. You choose it. Choose it now.
yes. And it even started before I even started my business when I was still in the day job. For a while, I was writing fiction. I had a fiction website. I would post a short, like it was called flash fiction, but like less than 1,000 words story once a week. And I started actually getting a reader base. I self-published a couple little ebooks. They're still out there. I'm still proud of them. I'm like, but I was just doing it and I was so fulfilled by that. And I started making a tiny bit of money with it, right? Like, and I was like, oh, like, and that was like the first time I was like, I'm not going to put off the fulfillment. I'm actually going to do the things that fulfill me. And now it's over time has become that the writing has become a part of what I do. I have channeled writings. I write content
Yeah.
all the time in my business. And I have my published Oracle decks and journals. And that was all
Yes.
following just the love of writing these things that to empower people the way I had been empowered and writing this, more poetic stuff, channeling messages this way. And so it was like it all just happened in the name of my own joy and my own fulfillment and not putting it
Mhm.
off because of money. And I think in doing that, I took my power back around money and around my own life. And because I was so in my own enjoyment of life, I was in the frequency and the energy of abundance. And then that's when the money started coming, right? But every time, and I can tell you every time in my business where I've had dips in my business where the money hasn't come, it's because I've gotten out of the enjoyment of it and I've made it about the money. And this is part of what I teach with people with the mindset aspect and trusting your inner guidance. But it's like when you are doing things just to because you think that's what you have to do or should do, or that's how the money will come in, the money often doesn't come because you're in the energy and mindset of I'm lacking it. I have to make it happen. I don't have it. I have to make it happen. And so instead, when you can just say, I'm so fulfilled, I'm loving my life, I'm loving what I'm doing, and I'll figure out the money and I'll do what I need to do, but I'm so fulfilled. You're in the energy and frequency of abundance and you're a match for it. And you will do things that are so inspired and so unique and that your gifts shine through that'll attract opportunities or be people will see them and go, oh my God, I want to pay you for that. Like it'll be easier to make money, but we have it so backwards. And that's, I think, the whole thing with money in our society is it's that like this is an external thing. It's not related. We could say it's not related to your energy at all if we want to go the manifestation route, but also it's not related to what you're good at. It's what you do, right? It's like the hard skills, the path you follow, and that's not true. And I think so many of us see that, right? And we see that like putting off of what we desire and, forsaking that in the name of a stable life, which I think is a completely broken system that is also doesn't work for most people.
Right. And that stability, it comes from inside. Like
Yeah.
stability doesn't come from these outside sources.
Mhm.
This has been just beyond incredible. I would love to hear, I want to hear the names of your published works so that we can go buy them and the name of your YouTube channel and all the places you want us to find you and follow you.
Yes, so you can find me on YouTube at if you go to youtube.com/ at Taylor-Eaton, but you could just also search Taylor Eaton on there and you'll find me. And I do Oracle tarot readings on there. I do subliminals, I do channeled messages, everything to help you activate more wealth within you. And then I have my published works, which are my Wealthy Woman Oracle deck and journal, as well as the Cosmic Wealth Codes affirmation deck and journal. And so you can find those if you go to tayloreaton.com. You can find all my decks and all the places, all the things on there. But everything I do is just geared toward whether it's free or paid or a product, everything is just geared toward helping you activate more wealth within you and create that from the inside out, whether that's through trusting your inner guidance or bringing forth your natural gifts or embodying and claiming the version of you you decide to be now. So,
Yes. Oh, and the
yeah.
membership. Can't forget the membership.
Yes. Oh, yes. Come join me in the Wealth Vibe membership. This is also if you go to tayloreaton.com/ the Wealth Vibe. There is that's a $25 a month membership and you can cancel at any time, but it's just insanely full of resources and community that I've put in there. We have hundreds of people in there. We do monthly money manifesting challenges with different modalities to help you rewire your mindset around money. We have a money and spirituality book club. We have a community space. I have exclusive meditations, things I put in there, daily mini money readings, things to just help you plug into the energy of abundance so that you can keep that at the forefront and like use that to fuel everything that you do. So that again, what we talked about, that energy of being in the energy of abundance is just behind everything you do and kind of supercharging it. So
Yes, and everything that you offer is just phenomenal and I adore
thank
it.
you.
So thank you. This has just been amazing.
Yes, thank you so much.